YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look what we've got here. It's the Futura 64 millimeters. This thing is gonna be awesome. Can't wait to fly it. We got a break in the weather, so we're gonna hit it right now hard. And we got 2200 4S. And yes, I almost forgot to tell you, even though it's got fixed gear, it's got something else cool. It's got thrust reverse for those of us that don't like walking to the end of the runway. All right. Without further ado, here we go. Takeoff flap set. 50% throttle, 100%. She's in the air, she's alive. I accidentally turned on safe because I tried to flip the gear. Whoa. Okay, so what happened there, guys, is I forgot we were flying a 64 millimeter jet. And I thought I could fly it like it was an 80. Don't do that. You may not get a second chance. So guys, 64 millimeters, it's a lot simpler than the 80. But yes, this thing does fly. It's got flaps, fixed gear, spring-loaded oleos on all three of the apparatus, which is pretty sweet. I'm gonna show you how we can slow it down. Takeoff flaps. Okay, we do have some wind. Okay, out of the flaps into the throttle, about 70% throttle there, right over the sun. Obviously, safe works. I turned that on accident. I think we're gonna have to take a couple of landings just so we can practice. Okay, full landing flaps coming out now. Oh man, that thing slows down nicely. Look at that. Look at that thing slowing down. That is awesome. Oh yes. And I don't know if we're getting an oscillation overcorrection here. Pilot fatigue. We'll just put pilot fatigue it back over. Give us a little more pilot fatigue. A little bit more. That's set to 3.5 volts, our voltage alarm. Okay, we're gonna try this again, guys. 3 minutes left on our 5. 70% throttle, 100% out of the takeoff. Ah, dang it, I keep accidentally turning on safe because I wanna flip the landing gear up. Oh, I shouldn't have set it to the gear switch. That was a dumb decision. But as you can see, the thing is doing pretty good. The takeoff flaps, definitely effective. The landing flaps are crazy. And I gotta say, I think I got just a little bit of overcorrection with the AS3X. We're gonna try it in the bull. Definitely have some confused winds today. It's been very windy here the last few days. Good roll rate, as you can see from the clouds. Going from very hot to cooler. You're gonna get a lot of that temperature change is gonna cause some craziness in the atmosphere. This being our virgin run of the 64 millimeter Futura, I'm definitely learning some lessons. Okay, we're gonna slip, 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 slip. Whoa, buddy! She just stalled hardcore on me. Thank God for the AS3X and safe. Looks good doing what it's doing. Okay, 5 step back, please. Full landing flaps here. Whoa, hard into the throttle. Those barn doors definitely get it into a stall characteristic that you don't want to find out. There it is, guys. So I gotta say, takeoff flaps out. We're gonna take off again. I gotta say, I feel like this thing would probably do okay on grass. Because of those spring-loaded gear, we are getting a consistent chirp from our voltage alarm. 3.5, let's slow it down. Keep that nose kind of pointed downhill a little bit. Oh man, I don't want to miss the runway. It's so dang easy to hit it. Okay, so we are 4S 2200, 50C pack. We've had beeping for a good chunk of the flight, and I think that's pretty standard operating procedure for an EDF. Those barn doors really create a lot of drag, which is awesome the way we set those up. Pilot fatigue. And it really just, like, you can land it in a very small runway, but look how much deflection we put into our flaps, guys. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and do a controllable thrust reverse here and just bring this thing right back to where we want it, which is right at our feet. Just gonna turn it around. Boy, this Futura is definitely a different flying creation than the 80mm bigger sister. But I'll tell you what, I love the way it looks. It flies very different. It's definitely not got as much juice as you're used to, but it does everything it does very well. And I'm not dissatisfied with the flight performance, although I can definitely say I'm a little dissatisfied with the weather by which we're getting to use it in. And I can tell you this too, that 64mm, you got a lot of power for a 64. But then again, just remember, you're not flying an 80. Okay, throttle cut's on. I did turn my gains up quite a bit. I feel like we were getting a little bit of wiggle, and so I would like to try that flight again with a new battery, so we're gonna pause and try again. All right, so we had 145 on the timer just now, so I think we're safe at 5. We'll just respect the timer for this flight. And as you can see, we're at 14.1 volts nominally, 3.5 on each of the cells, okay? So I'm not super worried about overdoing it at 5 minutes. This being a Gen 1, so we can use a voltage alarm, of course, and it looks like it's pretty dissatisfied with the performance. The battery is a little puffed up, but don't worry, that's from previous flights. So we're gonna try this again with a newer one. Can't use a voltage alarm on this one, and so I'm gonna put this face down so our shelf liner is effective. Now, if you guys are new to Brian Phillips RC, we review these things when they're brand new and sometimes when they're early. This one here, I think I wanna go just a hair further forward. So I'm just a little bit further up on the strap. There's 2200. This happens to be a 30C. It's a Gen 2, should balance a little better than the Gen 1. The Gen 1s don't balance quite as quick, but they should be fine for flight performance. Okay, so now that we're ready to rock and roll, I'm actually gonna push off and just let it taxi back because I don't wanna waste a bunch of extra power getting that thing reversed into position. Now I'm gonna try my best to respect my timer, but goodness gracious, those clouds in the backdrop are so pretty. I'm gonna totally fly into them. Okay, you ready? Take off flaps. Here we go, full throttle. Look at that thing roll so quick. This time you'll notice I didn't turn safe on. Look at these clouds, guys. And look at that beautiful bird right in front of them. Awesome. So cool. That is quite the backdrop, folks. Amazing. Too bad we have hay cut, which for those of you who know anything about farming, you don't want hay on the ground when you've got clouds like that sitting in your foreground. Look at that thing. Upside down, backward, and we're just gonna pull out of it, get some airspeed, and fly it like you stole it. Definitely feel like there's maybe just a bit of overcorrection at times on the AS3X here because this thing will get to wiggling, and I think it might just be the upset nature of the atmosphere. I'm gonna turn my gain down just a little bit, and we're gonna go in here and just do a nice big loop. We're gonna turn it at the top, and we're gonna go upside down flight performance here, guys. Okay, so upside down flight performance, look at the turbulence there. That is turbulence. Upside down is beautiful. Okay, coming out of it, we'll do some right side up against the gigantic super clouds. Absolutely fantastic looking. Come down for a full speed, climb back out, bring it back down. You know, this EDF has a lot of juice, but you have to remember, even though this is a light plane, take off flaps now, even though it's a light plane, it's definitely, whoa, did you see that thing get kicked up by the tail end first?
Yep.
That was crazy turbulence. Okay, out of the flaps altogether. It's almost like, it just feels so light on its feet. It's almost weird how light it is on its feet, actually. Some dark clouds to give you some difference in colors. Good roll rate. It could use just a little bit more aggressive roll rate, I think, for a high-speed jet. But the thing is, I can definitely appreciate the performance. If you guys are used to flying an 80 though, I just have to remind you, this thing is not an 80, it's a 64, which is crazy that you get that type of ups on a 30C 2200 4S. Guys, that's an incredible amount of ups. But there again, we don't have any calmness or laminarity to the wind today. So basically, we are flying it in a giant vortex turbulation. I just made that all up. Now, because of that, I'm having to fly a little bit more reserved than I want to, but I can definitely tell you this plane has a lot to give. It looks good. It went together super easy. It's definitely fun to fly. You just want to be careful to not treat it like an 80 because it will not do the things that the 80 does. And you may be expecting it to perform like the 80, and then you will be disappointed because you end up in the fox killing zone. That is so sweet. Up against those clouds, look like a giant dish of ice cream with a Futura on top. Isn't that what they asked for?
Yeah, always.
I like my sundae with a Futura on top, please. Now keep in mind, no voltage alarm on this flight, so you're not hearing all the chirps and beeps and buzzes. That's okay by me. Because I gotta say, one of the things I like most about flying these things is once you can respect your timer, then you should be good to go. And with these current EDFs that we have, they tend to be battery chewers, but I think this one's gonna be okay because it's a single, and we're only running a 40 amp ESC, which is kind of nuts actually. Bringing it in over the tree line, watch this wind step toward the house right now. Toward the house. Thank you. Full landing flaps here. Let's see this thing slow down. Look at that. Look at that, guys. Slow as slow gets, folks. Also taking advantage of a little bit of a Mother Nature action there. That'd be the wind right down the runway. I don't know if you guys could tell I was trying to call it. Okay, we're gonna go up here and do a nice big S turn and then cut out of the throttle at the top. See if we can fly upside down with no throttle. Yeah, it doesn't like it as much. It does prefer some throttle. Okay, we'll keep the throttle in on this pass. You good? Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is our, oh crap. There's our timer. Okay, hopefully I get a little bit of juice back on this pass. Nope, I'm not gonna get it. Okay, so I'm out of flaps altogether. That's full throttle. Landing flaps, takeoff flaps. There we go, we're gonna go right at our feet almost. And by the way, that was with a dead battery. So pretty amazing stuff. Okay, so as you can see, that was a total dead stick landing, or very, 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 very near to it. And I was very nervous I wasn't gonna make it back over here. So what have we learned? First of all, we have a beautiful sunset that's probably going to ruin our hay after the thunderstorms happen later tonight. Secondly, what have we learned? We've learned that this Futura is nuts on only 4S 2200 in a 64 millimeter powerhouse. That is really incredible performance. Now, I gotta say, it doesn't look it, but it was blowing so hard that that stick was bending most of the day. So we are still getting a lot of turbulence. And again, it's kind of hard to see unless you look where the clouds meet the treetops. When the tops of the trees move, you know, you can tell there's a little bit of movement, but what happens is we can always tell that there's a lot more turbulence than we actually feel here on the ground because we're wrapped by trees like that. Yep. Okay, so I think this plane did okay in the wind. I would have liked to see a little bit of refinement on my AS3X, but we're getting such a big disparity in wind that I just don't even feel like messing with it yet.
It's picked up a lot since when we started.
Yeah, it's just, when you have a light plane that's quick on its feet, but also, I don't know, I feel like the 64 doesn't push through it. It doesn't cut the wind quite as good as the 80. But I would say that it's just every bit as good looking as a big brother or big sister, but without, retracts make a difference too. I feel like these landing gear are super stout. Every time I tried to hit the grass, it ended up coming onto the runway. And I'm like, maybe I just need to start aiming for the grass from now on. But all I gotta say is the thing just feels good in the air. It does everything you want it to do. Just be careful. My biggest mistake is I kept thinking, ooh, give it throttle, you've got more. But you don't, because this is a 64. So when you give it everything you've got, it's like a 60% throttle position on the 80, okay? So that means two things. One, if you're looking for a powerhouse, get the 80. It's amazing. You won't regret it for a second. Okay, if you're okay with a smaller, easier to transport, easier to battery, cheaper to battery package, then this one's gonna be a great option for you. Also, I must say, throttle cuts off. I should have a little bit of juice back. I could probably back taxi it now to turn it around. I gotta say, I really like thrust reverse. It is so nice to have that. Okay, we're not gonna get it. So having thrust reverse and having the pilot fatigue setting work, unlike what happened with the F-15 we did recently in a 64 millimeter, I'm really happy. You don't need it as much, especially when you have wind down your runway, because you can get the thing slowed down and you can put it down on its mains, no problem, all day long. This thing is great. But I'm telling you, the biggest problem you're gonna have is if you're like me and you've got the big brother, big sister, you are gonna think you've got power when you don't. So you gotta be careful about that. Now let's look at the plane again and just say, okay, is there anything I didn't like about this plane? The only thing I didn't like about the plane is just the difference in power. You can hear it beeping now. That's how dead the dead battery is. You hear it?
Oh yeah, I hear it now.
So, couple things. I felt like it still got that propensity to bite, like we get from the Viper jet, like we get from, what did we just do? The Avanti. And if you're slow and you start doing something stupid, this thing will still bite you. It's forgiving in that you can get it flying again quick, but it's unforgiving in that it will just totally fall out from under you. So basically, if you get this thing, you're gonna be very happy with it. Just be super careful that you don't think you're flying your 80 when you're actually flying your 64. That's gonna be the big thing. Also, I gotta say, if you don't have 6S batteries yet and you wanna get an experience that's very good, this plane will help you do it on an easier budget because you're only doing a 4S power plant here, okay? Now, that being said, I gotta say, both of these batteries are definitely hot as you know what, because they are, I use them a lot in that flight. But here, camera crew, I'm gonna have you touch this here.
My first one was toasty.
Yeah, it's hot.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's really hot. I'm gonna need to trade you. Here, trade me for that. So all I've got to say is good job, FMS. This plane is super fun. It's very light. It's really well put together. I hope we get a chance to get another video like really soon, because I feel like the footage we did tonight with the crazy upset wind, it's not gonna do justice for this model, because really this model deserves even better, and it really flew great. I think on a calm night, this thing is going to be so dang good that you're never gonna wanna go back. But also I gotta say, having the thrust reverse built in, and doing it on a 6-channel receiver, no less. It's not like we're doing some sophisticated receiver.
Yep.
We've got the AR630 in here. There is not a reflex in this by default, or at least not the way we got it. So if you're ordering it and you decide to go reflex, you can get into a 620, but don't try to do the 4, because if you do the 410, you're gonna lose the channels you need, because this does have inboard flaps. It does have an elevator, it does have a rudder, it has ailerons, and it has throttle. But then that thrust reverse, you're gonna need a channel for that. You can lock the mode if you want though, because the mode on the reflex, if you decide to buy a reflex V2 and throw it in here, that's fine. But just keep in mind, when you do that, you can lock the mode with any of your available channels and then just unplug it and put it in the other channel that you needed to use. Yep. Make sure that the flashing light, solid light, or fast flash is the same state that you expect before you fly though. And I would not recommend flying this thing in auto leveling all the time. That's one thing I definitely don't suggest. So that being said, hopefully we've answered some of your questions. Also, I just want to say what a gorgeous looking plane. Beautiful decals, very nice cheater holes here. The thing is really well put together. We got a small amount of damage that we show how we fixed from shipping. I think it was something about the way this wing was sitting on top of here. Hopefully that's just unique to our experience. But if it's not, we showed you how we fixed it, and you can barely tell because I have some beautiful fingernail polish there, as you can probably imagine I had. So anyway, NX10 worked great, no problems there, really easy setup. And you can follow along in the unbox build radio setup right now. If you just look at the playlist for this particular plane, you should be getting some sort of a thing up on the screen. And if you can't find it there, just check out brianphillipsrc.com. That's our domain, our website. And then also we have links in the video description below if you want to buy one of these for your very own and enjoy it just like I did tonight. That being said, guys, we appreciate you watching these videos. The unbox was very quick and easy compared to the F-18 we just did the other day, and we were wishing we could get that flight in, but it looks like the sun isn't going to cooperate. So that being said, guys, stay tuned. There's so much more coming for Brian Phillips RC. If you don't want to support us by buying this plane or something like it that's similar, what we would really ask you to consider is there's super thanks, YouTube membership, Patreon membership, and PayPal in other ways to support us. But we think the best way has always and will always be get amazing planes, because that helps us to build and bolster our relationships with the different companies that send out stuff for review. And it also helps us to be as truthful as possible on all these manufacturers, because here's the thing, make no mistake, if you do more, then you have more room to say exactly what you found on each model. And that is true from experience. But also at the end of the day, FMS has done right by us. We have some good products from them. We've had some products we're not crazy about, but most of them have been really solid. And so this thing is no exception. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. And by the way, get them a shot of the thrust tube. Beautiful 11-bladed fan. I love this plane. I think it's going to be a definite keeper. The only thing I really kind of wish it had that it doesn't have is a retracts, but I got to say I'm really happy with the fixed gear, given that they are basic and it keeps this whole package really light. Also helps to hold down the cost. That being said, if you decide you can't live without them, there are some planes in the size class that you could get some retracts for, but you're just going to have a heck of a time adding them to any plane this size. There's just not much wing there. Okay. So, and finally, and the very last thing I gotta say is if you don't like this plane, but you kind of like the concept of it, the Futura in the 80 is amazing. So if you can afford the more expensive batteries, you've got the charging system to boot, you're gonna have no more radio involved, and you're gonna have every bit of thrill from this and even more so. So the 80 is amazing. And if you wanna see videos about that, you can find them right now, a couple different ways. Click on my face icon anywhere, search our channel for the 80mm Futura, or just type 80mm, it should come up. Or you can go to Brian Phillips RC and you can search by type or by manufacturer, hobby shop, distributor, that sort of thing, okay? Either way, we'll help you find it, because we know you wanna make a good decision with your limited RC budget, just like us. So thanks guys for watching. We hope we answered all your questions. If we haven't, leave them in the comments below. We'll try our best to get to them as soon as possible. And a special thanks to our Patreons and other supporters at YouTube membership, PayPal, and also super thanks. So thanks guys for being there with us, but don't forget to smash the like button on the way out. We'll see you on the next one.